What's up guys, I'm Dave Klein and welcome to my Dark Souls 3 lore series. Today we're going to take a look at a king whose eagerness for power would drive him to the brink of the abyss, one with no regard for others and who would bring about his own demise, High Lord Wolnir. Our tale begins in the desert land of Carthus. The kingdom was run by High Lord Wolnir, the conqueror who brought great prosperity to his people by destroying others. His people, living for their High Lord Wolnir, conqueror of most kingdoms known to their people. Led by Wolnir, the people of Carthus were a brutal group of swordsmen who valued victory over all else. They attached great value to victory and would not shun the use of pyromancy such as acid surge, for where is the honor in death and scoured bones? No matter what the means, even as disgusting and revolting as the darkest of pyromancies, victory was all that mattered. It's not surprising then, the grave wardens of Carthus would have no issue in eventually using dark pyromancies. Their swordsmen were masters whose techniques are said to dazzle their opponents by moving as weightlessly as a grain of sand. Carthus' aggression has been likened to an uncontrollable fire, and since ancient times its beacon has been used as a signal for war. And war they did. High Lord Wolnir brought every other lord to their knees, taking each of their crowns. Once upon a time, such things were bequeathed judiciously to each of their rightful lords until Wolnir brought them to their knees and ground their crowns to dust. Then the crowns became one, and Wolnir, the one High Lord. And while it's not explicitly stated, it's my belief that these crowns were those of the Sunken King, Old Iron King, Ivory King, and Vendrick's crown, the various crowns presented to the lords in Dark Souls 2, meaning he defeated the lords of his time period holding these crowns. Do bear in mind, while powerful lords held these crowns, it didn't necessarily make them Lords of Cinder, nor link the crowns with linking the flame. In Dark Souls 2, you have the Ivory King who held the Ivory Crown, yet his soul was not required to link the fading flame. In another example, the Old Iron King conquered all as he gained his Old Iron Crown, and yet he had lost his crown to another. If we continue looking at Dark Souls 2 similarities to learn more about High Lord Wolnir, the search would lead us right into Jugo. Similar to Carthus, Jugo was a desert land. Carthus, as we learn, is filled with pyromancies. The Carthus Pyromancy Tome can be found, explaining it's a pyromancy tome from Carthus containing pyromancies crafted for battle. Carthus pyromancies developed in isolation from other forms, explaining their divergent evolution. Similarly, Jugo is filled with desert sorceresses who would use pyromancy as their primary weapon, with no hint of sorceries or miracles. And yet another connection lies in the pyromancy Acid Surge. Acid Surge is a pyromancy of Carthus of the Sands, and we find that Jugo is also home to eroding acid. The corrosive urns of Dark Souls 2 can be found from the corrosive ants of Jugo, whose anthills created by the corrosive ants line the horizon of the desert land of Jugo. While none of this is conclusive evidence, it does create the possibility that Jugo would eventually become known as Carthus, and the location High Lord Wolnir hailed from. A greedy soul, power-hungry and obsessed with the desire to be the greatest, Lord Wolnir of Carthus sentenced countless souls to gruesome deaths, keen to outlive them all. However, this would all end. Perhaps due to his insatiable greed and want to have it all, he eventually fell into the abyss. And when Wolnir fell into the abyss, he was gripped by a fear of true darkness and pleaded to the gods for the first time. The powerful and greedy lord succumbed to the abyss, but the pyromancer later became a grave warden and discovered the black flame. High Lord Wolnir could not resist the power of the abyss, yet no matter what he would become, no matter what it took, like his own knights, High Lord Wolnir wanted to live. For where is the honor in death and scoured bones? He never truly learned to fight the abyss, yet utilized a holy sword and 3 armlets stripped from the corpses of clerics to give him some semblance of comfort. These holy items, which were eroded by the abyss, helped him survive. By attacking him and breaking his armlets, we witness him being pulled deeper into the abyss, as these would seem to be all that's keeping him from the brink. So, what drew High Lord Wolnir to the abyss? It's possible that it could have been for more power, with the dark pyromancy, Black Serpent, being a pyromancy discovered from the abyss by High Lord Wolnir that inspired the black arts of the Grave Wardens. Perhaps Wolnir sought the power of the abyss, but searched too far and fell in. On the other hand, we find out that High Lord Wolnir of Carthus succumbed to the Abyss, but the Pyromancer later became a Grave Warden and discovered the Black Flame. A lot of this will depend on your interpretation of who the Pyromancer is. This could be referring to Wolnir himself, as he clearly utilizes pyromancies, as we get the Pyromancy Black Serpent as a transposition of his soul. We also find the Grave Warden Pyromancy tome directly in front of Wolnir, which would link him to this. However, that tome is on another body. We find the Grave Warden's ashes elsewhere, those being Umbral Ash of the Grave Warden of the Catacombs of Carthus. The old man began as a squire, carrying his master's accoutrements. He ended his days a Grave Warden and carried them still. The Grave Warden Pyromancy tome yields Black Flame and Blackfire Orb, which are pyromancies discovered by Grave Wardens after High Lord Wolnir fell into the Abyss. It's therefore my opinion that the Grave Wardens were still able to somehow interact with Wolnir, and he inspired them to utilize the dark. It's also worth mentioning that High Lord Wolnir and the Abyss are both contained by a goblet bearing the skull of Wolnir and his crown. It's likely this was somehow put in place by Wolnir's very own Grave Wardens. Either that, or the Abyss Watchers. The Abyss Watchers stand guard directly in front of the entrance to the Catacombs of Carthus. As we know, High Lord Wolnir was consumed by the Abyss and his Grave Wardens used the dark arts. It would seem the Abyss Watchers are specifically watching over the Catacombs of Carthus and ensuring the Abyss does not spread beyond. This would also indicate to me that the Abyss Watchers came after the events of Lord Wolnir falling into the Abyss. Another thing to note, the yellow bug pellet tells us the Grave Wardens of Carthus used these to repel a great sandworm. The worm tumbled into the catacombs and proceeded to dominate its new home in the smoldering lake. As that's the case, this would make it possible that the desert of Carthus is actually located directly above the catacombs of Carthus, somewhere between Farron Keep and Irithyll the Boreal Valley. One other thought, given the Farron Keep would seem to be the location of Darkroot Garden and Basin, and therefore Oolacile, it's most likely that the Catacombs of Carthus are the very same depths Manus can be found in within Oolacile, especially considering the location of the Wolfblood Abyss Watchers who take after Artorias. Alright guys, that wraps up this lore video on High Lord Wolnir, the Conqueror of Carthus. Make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, you might like my lore video on Aldrich of the Deep, or you can always catch up with my Dark Souls 1 lore series. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace. A year later, development began on Chrono Trigger, which is what inspired me to build this baby. A working time machine. Shuei Yoshida, Sony Computer Entertainment's head of product development, concluded, "This is crap. This is an unbelievably bad game."